There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
As a gay person, and as someone who comes from a kind of gay person, hi mom.
Hi.
I actually never knew that much about the Stonewall riots. I mean, I knew what they were, like these like riots that came about in like 1969 that lasted for like a day, at the Stonewall Inn, and
what state is that in?
New York.
It's in New York.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Stonewall Inn bar, New York. We'll get to that later.
Okay.
But it actually has a pretty interesting and almost funny history. It's very dramatic. It's very camp. It's very queer. It's very yeah.
You guys don't know how I messed up.
It's okay.
Start over. I told you. Okay, we had to cut for a second because I don't know how to speak, and I got nervous, and I messed up.
Mom, it's okay.
And Delilah wants to leave it in because
Okay. I love you, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd like to begin by acknowledging our sources.
Great.
Because every great podcast has sources. I mean...
And you got to give credit to the people who have done the work before you.
Yes. Because I did nothing. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you found them.
Sure. So for our sources today, we have 1969 Stonewall Riots Origin, Timeline, Leaders by Joseph Bennington from History.com. And then we have The First Pride Was a Riot, The Origins of Pride Month by Patty Housen from American University of Washington. Stonewall Inn, History and Facts by Tamsin Pickerel from Britannica. Reliable source, actually.
The encyclopedia. I know them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What Happened at the Stonewall Riots, A Timeline of the 1969 Uprising by Sarah Pruitt from History.com. Research Guides, LGBTQIA plus Studies, A Resource Guide, 1969, The Stonewall Uprising from the Library of Congress Research Guides.
Great. You have a lot of sources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, to begin, just a brief history on, like, gay bars in general, back in, like, the 60s and the 50s and around that time period. Gay bars were a staple for queer people. They were seen as safe spaces. Unfortunately, organizations and institutions were constantly trying to make it as hard as possible for gay people to go to these bars. I mean, the New York State Liquor Authority condemned the serving of alcohol to LGBT individuals. In 1969, these policies were overturned, but any behavior that was deemed homosexual was still illegal. So, like, that included, like, a woman dressing in masculine clothes, a man dressing in feminine clothes, a woman holding hands with a woman, a man holding hands with another man, smooching, all of that stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Anything that was like, that's a little gay.
It's a little gay. Well, it causes discomfort. It went against the idea of, the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be pushback when you challenge what people accept as normal.
Yeah. Which is really unfortunate, because, like, it was because of these policies and laws and the criminalization of homosexuality and, like, the kind of, like, perversion of it that, police would often, like, raid gay bars. Like, they happen all the time. Sometimes they infiltrated, like, suspected queer spaces with undercover cops who, like, pretended to be gay. We'll get more into that later, but it was... stupid. It was stupid. But, hey, it worked. I mean, they got in.
Yeah.
They got in. I think it's important that we note that the Stonewall riots were not the beginning of the fight for the queer rights movement, nor were they the end of it. I mean, it's still going on. It had gone on for a while before that, but I mean, like 14 years before the Stonewall riots, there was this huge protest at Pepper Hill Club in Baltimore where 162 people were arrested. Not to mention that there were organizations fighting for queer rights, like I'm gonna butcher this, the Mattachine Society of New York Flyer. But my question is, what changed? How was Stonewall different? What was this turning point for the queer rights movement? What was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak?
Well, I look forward to you answering that question for me because I don't know much about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit. I'm a huge lover of history. I've done a lot of research just in general about, the 60s and the sort of movements that came before it and the reality and the myth that came with hippie culture.
Yes.
Because they're,
The Satanic Panic.
Of course, that came a little later, starting in the 70s. So I think you have a nation that is very much on the cusp of turning. You have a lot of cultures that are mixing. You've got a lot of normal standards or what we accepted accepted as normal being challenged. And I think that this is a pinnacle moment. So I'm looking forward to knowing.
Yeah, I like learning about this stuff too, especially because it's like such a big part of my life. I mean, not just like the history of our country. That's a big part of everyone's lives that lives here in America. It has to be. I mean, our country is built on the culmination of different peoples and like different movements coming together over the course of time. That's how we got here today, as chaotic as it is right now.
Well, I think regardless of if you're a part of the, LGBTQIA community or if you're not, if you are an ally or you're not, it's important for you to know facts, to know history, to know both sides of it, and understand exactly what it is you're either in favor of or opposed to, because I think a lot of that gets lost.
Yeah, I think for anything, it's important to know your facts, and that's what we're doing right now. We're learning the facts.
Great.
So, to understand better why the Stonewall riots were such a turning point, you need to first understand the history of the Stonewall in itself. How this really cool place actually came to be. So I've heard. I mean, it's a bar. And in New York, I've never been to New York. I've never been to a bar. Yeah. Oh, Amber's wedding. I went to a bar for Amber's wedding.
But not in New York.
No.
And that was a crappy bar.
No, it was really bad. I mean... hello,
it's
Zeus.
A crappy bar.
My dog is here.
He's joining us. You have some comments?
But anyway, the Stonewall Inn started as a speakeasy in the 1930s, and I heard the word speakeasy a lot, but I never knew what a speakeasy was.
Fascinating.
I never knew what a speakeasy was. So basically, back when back during Prohibition, when alcohol was very illegal. It was very Zeus. That's my back. It was very illegal. My dog might bark, I'm very sorry. Back when alcohol was illegal and would you like to talk? Cool. Back when prohibition was happening, these bars called speakeasies would open, and it was basically people would sneak off and go drink alcohol just in secret. It was yeah.
Usually it was guarded. Usually there were...
I might be wrong about this, but were they kind of considered gentlemen's clubs a little bit?
Sometimes. I think that might have been where it started, where it's a little bit more secrets are protected a little more, but it was anywhere that they could go and enjoy alcohol in a secret place.
Yeah. It was very coffee houses in ancient Egypt,
I don't know that reference, but...
Oh, that's an episode for another day.
Let's stay focused.
Yes. But the Stonewall Inn, which, again, was once a speakeasy, caught fire in 1964. Set ablaze. I don't know how. There wasn't a lot of information on it, unfortunately. But around 1966, the Mafia saw profit in transforming the Stonewall Inn into a gay bar. And it opened its doors in 1967. So,
the Mafia, they have an eye for what's going to make money.
No, seriously, the Mafia was in charge of lots of gay bars all over New York, all over
strip clubs. You get both sides of it.
Yeah, and if they didn't work, they just opened another one. The Stonewall Inn became increasingly popular among displaced gay youth, but mostly because the entrance fee was so cheap. A little bit of shoplifting, and you had somewhere to sleep and eat for the night and party, which was pretty fun. Since its opening, it allowed drag queens and dancing, both of which weren't allowed in a lot of gay bars, because drag queens, again, were seen as kind of perverse at the time. I mean, sometimes they still are, but it was a lot worse back then, obviously. Dancing wasn't allowed in a lot of gay bars because it kind of drew in too much attention, stuff like that. Then, in 1969, just 2 years after it opened as a gay bar, everything changed. On June 28th, 1969, the Stonewall Inn was raided by police. This was pretty standard for gay bars at the time, but this was different. 8 undercover cops had infiltrated the bar and had singled out dozens of patrons that were suspected of cross-dressing. More cops showed up to the scene, and the brutality grew more rampant. Many patients? many patrons! Many patrons were battered, and 13 were arrested. Things began to hit a turning point when an officer began violently trying to force a masculinely dressed lesbian woman into a police cruiser. She began to scream profanities, egging on the crowd and shouting at them to act. A lot of people suspected it was this, the woman was like a very famous gay rights activist, but I can't remember her name, unfortunately. I probably should have written that down.
I feel like that's something that
very important, but that's just a theory.
Yeah. Well, she became one if she wasn't already.
Yes, she did kind of like begin this all. First, the crowd threw pennies. Then they threw bottles. Then the first brick, quote unquote, was thrown. Suddenly, the crowd was in chaos. People were angry. This was the last straw. More objects rained down until the police had to shut themselves inside the Stonewall Inn before reinforcements came. Some patrons used a makeshift parking meter battering ram to try and force open the doors, while others used booze and lighter fluid to fashion explosives. Soon enough, riot police showed up at the scene. They began to chase off protesters, but the patrons were smart enough to wrap around the block and catch the officers from behind. As the sun began to set, the riots calmed down. Incredibly, no one was killed or badly injured.
Excellent.
I mean, a few cops claimed that they were like, my arm's broken, but... but yeah, I mean, it was this crazy turning point. I mean, like, sure, like, we'd seen stuff like this before, but I think this was kind of a collective, like, moment where everyone was like, this has been going on for so long, and we're tired of it. I mean, the Stonewall riots left a huge legacy behind. And immediately, I mean, you kind of began to see the effects of that. The queer community in the area took what happened at Stonewall as an opportunity for improvement. For several days after the riot, queer people met outside of the Stonewall Inn to spread awareness and foster a much brighter sense of civil unrest than was previously burned. I mean, on the 1-year anniversary of the Stonewall riots, thousands of people led by Marsha P. Johnson, who, of course, was a lot of people, like, go back and forth. Was she a trans woman? Was she a drag queen? But the important part is she was a very famous gay rights activist at the time.
Were those lines a little fuzzier back then? Between, somebody who was, a trans woman versus...
Yeah, they were a lot fuzzier. I mean, back then, there wasn't really the differentiation between sex and gender that there is now.
Absolutely.
I mean, now you can say, like, sex is not the same as gender. I mean, that's how I personally view it. I mean, a lot of psychologists and biologists alike agree on that gender is more a psychological construct, while sex is just the parts of the whole,
Mm-hmm.
But back then, a lot of the time, like, cross-dressers were trans people. Trans people were cross-dressers. There wasn't as much of a strong differentiation as there is now.
I think there were a lot of straight people who were cross-dressers.
Yeah,
well.
Exactly.
Your Herbert Hoovers.
Yes,
you've got a lot of people to this day.
Comedian? Herbert Hoover, was he the comedian?
No, he was I think he was the lead of the FBI. Like the Hoover Dam.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Wow. Who's the comedian? Unimportant.
Oh, you're talking about Eddie Izzard.
Yes, I am.
He was British, and he's still alive.
Oh, he's still alive. Oh, wow.
He's not very old.
Oh, that's on me for being young.
Yeah.
But yeah,
me being old, so I think he's not old.
Back on track.
Yes.
Marsha P. Johnson. Thousands of people led by Marsha P. Johnson marched in what is now known as America's first Pride Parade. This tradition continued and transformed across the country, united queer people from New York all the way to California. I think they're far from each other. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, like, this big thing had come together and then sparked what, I mean, is a good, like, what, six decades of...
You did not tell me I would have to do math during this podcast.
With 60 plus 60.
6 decades.
6 decades of, just...
Of change. And
yeah.
collaboration and deeper understanding, and in some ways, more resentment from people...
On both sides.
On both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Stonewall riots, when you're looking at it objectively, is, I think it's a great example of even when things don't start exactly the right way, like a riot. It's never a good thing, but sometimes you need that spark to start a fire for change and movement. Yes.
And that's something that the community recognized and came back and they're like, we're going to do it better. We're going to show them who we are. We're going to spread education and not just continue to be
this cycle of violence.
A violent protest.
Yeah.
There's the dog.
Hi, Zeus. Would you like to close off? Well, everybody, that was the, that was the podcast. Woo!
Yay, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I love you, Mom.
Love you.
Meow, meow.